Oz show. All new. Is wheat making you sicker and fatter than ever?
I don't think anybody should be eating this.
Controversial news on frankenwheat.
It is a perfectly crafted poison to make you gain weight.
Is this the revolutionary discovery to lose 15 pounds in just 30 days?
Who is this right for?
It's for everybody, and it happens very quickly.
The doctor went.
The results were shocking. It's so incredible, I would never have believed it.
Next.
This book is wildly controversial. It's called Wheat Belly, and it's been a New York Times bestseller for over 6 months. It says you are a victim of frankenwheat, and it's poisoning each and every one of you. The controversial author says frankenwheat is toxic and it's addictive. Meet Dr. William Davis.
Wheat is a big reason, if not the biggest reason of all, why Americans are the most overweight population, have the worst epidemic of diabetes, along with hypertension, heart disease, cancer, dementia, ADHD, autism. Wheat is making us sicker than ever.
Dr. William Davis is a controversial cardiologist who has dedicated his entire career to preventing heart disease. And he believes that today's wheat is killing us.
The wheat of today is not the wheat that your mom or grandma had, because what we have now is not the 4.5-foot tall traditional plant that we all think about. It is an 18-inch tall, high-yield, semi-dwarf creation of genetics research, and that's why I call it frankenwheat.
His wildly popular book has started the movement to completely eliminate wheat from the American diet.
You could call it organic, sprouted. You could put it in a multigrain loaf of bread. It's all the same frankenwheat. None of it is good for you. Modern wheat is addictive. It makes you want to eat more, eat other foods, eat other junk foods in particular. This thing is as addictive as many drugs. I have proof that if you get rid of the wheat, you will experience wonderful transformations in weight and health.
Please welcome Dr. Davis. So why do you call it frankenwheat?
Well, Dr. Oz, the wheat of today is nothing like the wheat of 1960, 1950. That is the wheat that our moms or grandmothers had. So it has been changed. And this new crop has implications for human health that were never anticipated. So this is appropriate for nobody. No human, nobody in this audience should be eating this modern creation of genetics research.
As a physician, I'd love if you just explain to all of us why you think it's poisonous. That's a strong word.
Because it has so many adverse effects on the people who eat. Foods like bagels and breads, all the things made with modern wheat flour. In fact, there's not an organ system or condition that has not been related to consumption of modern wheat.
So no one should be eating wheat anymore, from your perspective as a medical specialist?
I don't think anybody should be eating this. Children, adults, male, female, because it will impact on health. You might not perceive it as being due to wheat, but it will impact on your health in some fashion, sometimes in devastating ways, sometimes in subtle ways, but it will impact your health.
And you mentioned also that it's addictive. Now, this has been discussed. We've talked about it on the show in the past. If you could outline for everyone why wheat in particular is so addictive, I'd love that.
I think this is among the most startling of findings for many people, and that is there's a protein unique to wheat called gliadin. Mm-hmm. And gliadin has the potential to bind to the opiate receptors in the human brain, just like heroin, just like morphine, except it has a little different effect, of course. So wheat doesn't provide relief from pain, it doesn't provide a euphoria, it only stimulates appetite, so that people who consume modern wheat are triggered to consume 440 calories more per day, 365 days per year. If you add that up, it's a lot of calories. And by the way, you're not stimulated to eat more salmon or asparagus. It's stimulated to eat more junk carbohydrates. You want more bagels, cookies, chips. And so it is a perfectly crafted poison to make you gain stomach weight, visceral fat, deep visceral fat.
You know, I found the book provocative for many reasons, but the most compelling reason I wanted to have you here was to discuss your recommendations about whole wheat. I got to admit that on this show many, many times, and to my patients, I've always said whole grains, whole wheat bread, whole wheat cereals, all the places you find whole wheat, they're okay. They're better than the regular old processed enriched wheat flour. But you argue that my recommendation has been flawed all these years.
Well, I think many people have fallen into that trap. There's a flawed logic used in nutrition over and over again, and that is if you take something bad for you, in this case white flour, and replace it with something less bad for you, whole wheat, whole grains, and there's an apparent health benefit. And Dr. Oz, there's no question, if you replace white flour with whole grains, there is a health benefit. There's less diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. No question about that. But let's apply that false logic to cigarettes. If I take unfiltered cigarettes, bad, and I replace them with filtered cigarettes, and there's an apparent health benefit, the unavoidable conclusion using the logic of nutrition is you should smoke lots of filtered cigarettes. So I pose the next question, the next logical question, if we replace something bad with something less bad, what happens when we remove it entirely? And that's where we see not just improvements in health, that's where we see unexpected, believe me, unexpected transformations of health.
Let's discuss gluten-free foods. Huge fad, a lot of gluten-free foods being sold. Many more of these foods are available now than we believe people even have problems with gluten. What do you think about that movement?
Yeah, very important question, because this is not, what I'm talking about is not about gluten. Gluten's a problem. So celiac disease, of course, affects about 1 in 133 Americans. So about 1% of the population have this immune devastation of the intestinal tract from exposure to gluten. But I'm not talking about that 1% of Americans. I'm talking to the 99% of other people who have problems with things beyond the gluten. So nobody escapes the effects of modern wheat. And we don't want to replace a problem, wheat and gluten, with another problem, gluten-free foods made of what I call junk carbohydrates. Right. Cornstarch, rice starch, tapioca starch, and potato starch, because dried pulverized starches, large surface area, sky-high blood sugars. So we don't replace gluten with gluten-free foods, at least as they're currently manufactured. We're going to replace it with good food.
And why do you argue, and you make this persuasive theme throughout the book, that wheat is one of the sole reasons that we as a country have become overweight?
It's the biggest reason by far, because no other food has that gliadin protein unique to wheat that stimulates the opiate receptors and causes us to take in more food.
Can I share with everyone what's going on here? Because I think this is valuable to hear. So come on over, we've got a little demonstration. When you eat non-wheat foods, let's just isolate those. Potatoes, for example. They're carbohydrates, but they're not made of wheat. They affect your body very differently than when you have a wheat product of any kind. So pretend these are your bodies, right? Two examples, two different people. There's the body. Here's the energy that you want to get from the food that you're eating. So if you don't mind, Dr. Davis, grab the non-wheat. So this is non-wheat food. These are your potatoes, okay? Pour it in there into your body. Your body will immediately stimulate a little bit of insulin to allow you to take that energy, potential energy, and make it real energy for your body. Right? It's a pretty clear pathway. Non-wheat carbs raise insulin a little bit. As they go into your body converts it to energy, and you are good to go. Your body can handle that spike. That's the basic argument, if I understand this. Normal, healthy, good thing to do. Your body, therefore, can process it at a reasonable rate. Let me show you what happens when you eat wheat products. And what you're arguing is this is not just the white breads, but all the crazy places we find whole wheat products now.
Absolutely.
And there are many surprising ones. We're going to cover these in a few minutes. So when you eat wheat in this form, the body now takes the wheat. It has to dramatically increase insulin. It's a sloppy thing, and guess what? It doesn't convert it to energy nearly as fast. In fact, it spills over the top. And something else happens. The blood sugar skyrockets, so does insulin, and you start to grow fat. You see the fat as it slowly grows? That fat gets larger and larger and larger, and ponderously heavy bellies result from people who eat a lot of wheat, especially because you keep eating it. You keep taking more and more in, even after you've had what you're supposed to have had, because of that addictive nature that we spoke to. And this fat, of course, and it grows pretty big, that fat leads to heart disease and joint pain and fatigue and all kinds of other problems that happen over time. So I want to test out Dr. Davis's theory. I got to say, when I read these books, I'm startled sometimes that this stuff has not permeated through the fabric of medicine. This whole concept that whole wheat bread will increase blood sugar to a level higher than a candy bar. That was one of the things you said in the book. So we have a medical unit. We decided to do the experiment for all of us. It hasn't been done before that I'm aware of. We took blood sugar levels in 5 women. Here are these 5 women. Here they are eating their bread. That's whole grain bread, what I recommend. We took their blood sugars, and then once we got their numbers this day, we compared it to the next day's experiment, which was we gave them candy bars 24 hours later. After they enjoyed the candy bars a lot. Then we took their blood sugar again, and when we compared the blood sugar results of the 2 days, again, 5 women after having had whole grain, whole wheat bread, and then the next day, those same 5 women after having had the candy bars, the results were shocking. 3 out of the 5 women had a higher blood sugar spike from the whole wheat bread than the candy bar. Amazing, isn't it? Now, Natasha and Dieta's blood sugar spike was 2 times higher from the whole wheat bread than the candy bar. Natasha and Daisha, you guys are a little stunned, I can see from your eyes. So what do you think about that?
I am shocked. I mean, all my life you think wheat is great for you, it's good for you, and it's not. I can eat Snickers bar and replace that with my wheat toast in the mornings.
Well, I'll tell you what surprised me. I mean, I could even see them being sort of close, but remember I said 3 out of 5 had a really bad reaction to the wheat. 2 out of 5 didn't. It's unpredictable, folks. It's so incredible, I would never have believed it, except thanks to you all, we did the experiment and learned this. So, Dr. Davis, you titled the book Wheat Belly. And we haven't talked about, the wheat belly weight loss component, but we're going to turn to that now. You argue that you've got a plan that will help folks lose, listen carefully, 15 pounds in just 30 days. It's a big promise. I mean, how do you hope to achieve that?
Dr. Oz, it's surprisingly typical. You lose the wheat, you lose the appetite stimulation, you lose the weight, and it happens easier than you thought.
So the big question is, who is the wheat belly diet right for? Should you lose the wheat to lose the weight? The plan, it's next.
I lost 106 pounds by eliminating one thing, wheat. I naturally reversed my high blood pressure and I no longer have to take medication.
I've lost 70 pounds by eliminating wheat from my diet, and I've dramatically reduced my bloated belly. I'm the smallest I've been since high school, and I've never felt better.
I lost 150 pounds by eliminating wheat, and I'm no longer diabetic. But that's not all. I used to suffer from horrible joint pain, and recently I ran my first half marathon.
Absolutely remarkable stories. I'm back with Dr. William Davis, who says you can lose up to 15 pounds in just 30 days if you eliminate wheat from your diet. And that's it, I'm gathering. So who is this right for, this diet, and why does it work so effectively?
Dr. Oz, it's for everybody. Anybody who breathes can benefit by doing this. Weight loss and other health benefits. And it happens very quickly.
Right. Now, these stories that we just saw, they're pretty typical for the kind of weight loss you see over longer periods of time?
Yeah, a little longer, of course. Doesn't happen overnight. But these are the astounding stories that I'm getting every single day.
All right, so the first step of your plan, and you outline this nicely in the book, is to eliminate these wheat products cold turkey. Why is that so important?
I think that's important because it's like this thing is so addictive, it's going to stimulate your return to it. So it's easiest to break that bond and stop it altogether.
And there's some confusing realities about where you find wheat products. So let's show everyone some of the surprising places that you actually find these.
Well, wheat is found obviously in obvious sources like breads and rolls and muffins, but there's some not so obvious sources. In fact, you're going to be hard-pressed to go to the grocery store and find processed foods that don't contain wheat. So we're going to find wheat in tomato soup. We're going to find wheat in licorice, chewing gum, taco seasoning, chewing gum.
Why do they put wheat in chewing gum? Doesn't taste like bread.
I believe to keep it from sticking. So maybe an advantage, but not good for the humans who consume it.
And the thought is that it stimulates those same places in the brain where heroin would work. So you're stimulated to keep eating when you have the stimulant.
That's right. So every moment you consume these things, you are triggered to eat more.
And this is not the same as a gluten-free diet, I gather.
Excellent point. So this is not about gluten-free food. So we don't want to replace a problem with another problem. So we do not use gluten-free foods as they're currently created.
Perfect. Step 2 is to eat real foods. Add in real foods to your diet. Please explain what that means in your mind.
So we're going to return to real single-ingredient foods that do not contain wheat or other junk. So we're going to have nuts, seeds, olive oil, olives, some dairy, eggs, meats, vegetables, of course. So real foods. Now, some people are going to miss that wheat. And so it's okay to go to some non-wheat grains. Just go lightly. Most Americans have such blood sugar problems, disasters, that it's not wise to overdo the non-wheat grains as well as fruit, but have some. If you have kids, kids can get away with more carbohydrates than adults can.
So you have, lentils and navy beans and the like here. So you can have these, but you argue about half a cup a day, if I remember?
About a half a cup and you're safe.
Yeah, and same thing for fruits. You can't have too much because of the sugar impact?
Exactly. Too many of us have been made diabetic or pre-diabetic, and we don't want that.
Okay. Step 3 is to add in wheat replacements. This is really important, folks, because if you're going to replace wheat, which is in a lot of the foods that we just covered, you got to find something that works that replaces them. So you brought some examples, some of these wheat replacements.
Exactly right. So you don't have to lose your cookies and muffins. You can have them, but you're going to make them with unique ingredients that are healthy, truly healthy. None of those problems. We can use, for instance, ground almonds, almond meal. We can use coconut flour. And you can see it makes a gorgeous, beautiful, delicious bread.
Does it taste good?
And it tastes pretty darn good, too. You can have pasta, but we're going to use shirataki or konjac noodles, which are very healthy, very benign. We can use spaghetti squash, use your tomato sauce, other sauces. It's delicious.
Okay. And then finally, you have one other big replacement idea.
You can use some of the non-wheat grains, but we once again have to be a little bit careful, so go light on your non-wheat grains like millet and sorghum and bulgur if you venture into those kinds of non-wheat grains, because they once again have blood sugar consequences.
Okay, so you gave us a sample day of what our life might look like if we want to lose 15 pounds in 30 days. This is what you're going to be eating. So please, if you don't mind, walk us through these.
Well, you can recreate almost any dish, and you can have a very varied, delicious diet without wheat and without other junk. So we've made pancakes. Look at that beautiful pizza. You can have pizza on Friday night with friends and family. Kids can have it. It's delicious, beautiful. You can bread your meats. That's pecan encrusted chicken. It's delicious, every bit as delicious as breaded chicken, but it has none of the adverse health effects. And those are brownies.
I would do this. No, really, this is not hard to do at all. No. What's remarkable to me, I'm going to underline this for everyone. You're arguing that if we eat these foods, we will be stimulated to eat less food overall, which is primarily the reason that you'll lose all that weight.
Exactly. You'll consume on average 440 fewer calories every single day.
Thank you very much for the provocative advice. All these recipes are on DrOz.com. Check them out. They're not difficult to do. Now, one of the big side effects of eating wheat for a lot of people are headaches. So we're going to turn our attention to that. You get throbbing headaches or tension in your head and neck part of your life, but not all headaches are created equal. When we come back, I'm going to show you what type of headache could be causing your pain.